If you want to learn how to animate a text background like this, keep watching. As usual, we're going to start with Procreate. I have my photo gallery open on the side in split screen mode, and the sizing in Procreate is 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels. You're going to start by pressing and holding on the product of your choice, and you're going to drag this picture into Procreate, and this is to eliminate the background. When it's over in Procreate, you can go ahead and erase and clean up your photo to your liking. When you're finished, you can open Procreate Dreams, and we're opening HD Social at 12 frames per second at a duration of 10 seconds. Next, press and hold your layer and drag it into Procreate Dreams. To create a background, we're going to duplicate our layer, alpha lock this second layer, change our color to black, fill this layer, remove the alpha lock, and then we're going to drag this layer into Procreate Dreams below our original layer. Now tap and hold the left hand side and drag to fill duration. Open your timeline edit mode, and you're going to group these two layers. Delete the extra tracks. When you're finished, position your product exactly how you want it to begin your video. So tap on the red little dot and rotate your photo accordingly. The next step is to create a layer below your product photo, and we're going to color the background. Opening drawing mode, and I'm color picking a color from my product and using a lighter version of this color, the soft brush from the airbrushing category, and I'm going to paint on the top right and the bottom left of this canvas. I'm going to choose two colors, and I'm going to alternate the colors on both sides, as you can see. I will then select my smudge brush in the same airbrush soft brush, and I will blend the colors using small circular motions. Next, you should exit drawing mode, and we're going to this layer, dragging it, ensuring that it's at the start of the track, and we're going to fill duration. And selecting this black layer, we're going to click on the playhead, click filter, click Gaussian blur, and we're going to do about 2%. And I'm going to go to the end of the track, and I'm going to set another keyframe, clicking on the playhead, and then clicking filter, and then clicking the same Gaussian blur at 2%. And I'm going to set my easing to linear. Now I'm not sure if it was going to remain in that blur, so that's why I did it like that. Then I'm going to rename my layers just for some organization. So you press and hold on your track and you click rename, and then I chose a highlight color for the both tracks. I did a track above that colored background, but I'm not going to use it just yet. I decided that I will do the perform action first on the shoe before I proceed. Now, as usual, I like this floating effect, so I moved my pencil up and down, and you can click that modify word up in the corner there, the right hand corner, to adjust your settings to get it looking smooth. And you play back to ensure that you like what you're seeing. Alright, so moving on, now I'm going to add a text layer in that track that I placed above the colored background. Alright, so it's fitting to call this shoes Jesus shoes. So first I'm going to type Jesus, then I'm going to duplicate a layer, and I'm going to type shoes on the second one. Fun fact, I actually designed this shoe for my husband a couple years ago, and he just wanted the name Jesus, and I just dropped a bunch of random colors, and it came out so popping and nice. Anyways, back to this. So we're going to duplicate this track by going into track options and clicking duplicate, and it would add a new track on top of the previous one. So here I'm going to type in shoes. So Jesus would be on one layer and the word shoes would be on the next layer. And I'm going to change the color by clicking on those two AA down on the bottom there and coordinating with the colors that are on the shoe. I'm going to change the color of the name Jesus as well. And then I'm going to group those two tracks together by going into the timeline edit mode. And what we're going to do, seeing that we want this to be floating from the top to the bottom, we are going to be duplicating this group a couple times. So now I'm changing just formatting the size to ensure that it looks good together. And then I'm going to go into the timeline edit here and group those two tracks together. Now you delete the extra tracks and you tap and hold again. You go to track options and you click duplicate. We're going to select the shoe by tapping on it, the shoes, Jesus shoes wording, drag it below, and we're going to open this grouping, go to the word shoes, change the color into a new color. So we double clicking, double tapping, or whatever it is, double tapping on the word, going into the setting and changing the color. When we finish with that, we're going to close this second grouping and we're going to go to timeline edit mode and we're going to highlight those two groups with the 4 words and we're going to group those two just like this. I don't know how else to explain it, but we're going to be duplicating these groups a couple times and then we're deleting the extra track, right? So I'm going to speeding this up a bit, and you can add as many groups depending on how long you want your words to be running for the duration of your timeline. Now we're going to drag our entire group to the very top of the canvas and we're going to click on the playhead and we're going to add a keyframe, click move and scale, and this will be the starting point for our keyframe. We go to the end of our timeline, we tap on the playhead, tap on move, and we're going to set or drag the playhead below to the keyframe track, and then we're going to drag our grouping to where we want our words to stop flowing. And then we're going to tap and hold on the keyframe track and set our easing to linear so that everything will move at the same pace, just like this. Now go to the beginning of your text layer, tap on the playhead, tap on filter, and we're going to change the opacity. So at the very beginning of this layer, we're going to keep the opacity at 100. Then we're going to go at the end of the timeline and we're going to set the opacity. At this time I'm going to put it about 15, but I will change it later on because of the duration of my video. So we're going to keep it at 15 for now. Then I'm going to add a new track, and I had this grand idea, since I had 2 other photos with different angles, I thought why not try to create a rotation effect, you know, as if the shoes is rotating 360. I mean, it's not perfect, but I decided to try it. Don't come at me, please, I'm still learning. So the first thing that I did was to split this track, the floating track. I added the picture, that same original picture, and I overlapped it. So one track would be floating and one track would be static. So I overlapped it just to get the finishing point because I don't want it to be floating as I'm trying to rotate it. So I got a static picture without any keyframes in it, and I positioned it where the floating one ended, just like this. And I cut it to about 1 frame because we want it to be quick and snappy. want to create an illusion as though it's turning, so it has to be like about 1 frame or half a second. I don't know how is this, but just as you see it there, it was like about 1 frame apart. Right, so I duplicated this static shoe about 3 times, and on the third one I just randomly warped the shoe to create a blur effect before the turn began. Now the second picture I overlapped on the warped one, positioned it in a way that if it was supposed to naturally turn, this is where it could be. So I positioned it there and I drew 3 lines in drawing mode just to create like a effect as though it's moving. And I cut this to about 1 frame as well. So I was basically just eyeballing right now. So the reason why I'm dragging it on top of the previous track is just to get a positioning of where the last position was. When I got that position, then I dragged it back on the same layer, and then I will cut this at 1 frame as well and delete the rest. Then I entered drawing mode and just randomly drew 3 of those action lines just to create a swift moving effect. And the last step was to get a horizontal picture. I duplicated the first layer by dragging it on top. I dragged it to a different track, duplicated it because I didn't want it to push all my pictures to the right. So after that was duplicated, I brought it back down and deleted that extra track. Now I positioned it and then I flipped it horizontally. So you tap on the red dot, and I think it's the 3 little dots next to that red dot. Open the settings and flip horizontal. And then I brought it back down on the same track. Alright, so I'm playing it back to see how that looks, and that could work there. So now I'm just putting a text saying coming soon. You could put whatever text you want. Have fun, be creative. And I wanted a text that was very impactful, so I chose the impact font. And then to get it popping out, I added a track above it and went into drawing mode, and I colored using the soft brush all the colors that are in the shoe. I wanted that text to just have this nice colorful look. And I'm going to fill duration, then I'm going to go to mask and use it as a clipping mask. Now the colors are a bit harsh, so I went into the drawing mode again and clicked the smudge brush just to blend those colors a bit. After that, I clicked on the black layer there, press and hold track options to duplicate, and I want to create like a nice black shadow. So I tapped on the wording and just shifted it to the right a bit, and then I entered the timeline edit mode and I grouped those 3 tracks. Delete your extra tracks as usual. And now the idea is to have it popping out of the shoe. So I set a keyframe, you go to move and scale, and I reduced the sizing of it. And I want the words to be popping out when that shoe is there horizontally. So what I had to do was drag that layer about, just like you see me doing here, drag it forward a bit and set in a new keyframe at the ends where the horizontal shoe is supposed to be popping out. Set a keyframe there and enlarge it, just as you see I'm doing here. So the idea is when it rotates, the comment soon is just gonna pop out from the shoe, starting small and getting big. And as you can see, I moved my keyframe forward so that you wouldn't really see the horizontal shoe, but the comment soon is going to pop forward. So I'm going to play this back just to make sure that I have the effect that I'm looking for. And this could work. I have not yet learned how to do the blob, the transition from the blob. I'm going to get there. So when I learn that, I'm going to try that out. Anyways, so I'm just reducing the opacity of the Jesus Shoes text layer because I want the coming soon to be more popping, and the text background at this time is a bit distracting. So I'm just toggling and playing with the opacity here. And at this point, I decided to reduce the video duration to about 8 seconds. So I set a keyframe on the coming soon, and I want it to end in like it's disappearing. So I set a keyframe there and I reduced the size by tapping and holding on the red dot and reducing the size. Listen, if you all are getting anything from these videos, I want you to comment and say it's helpful, because it's kind of hard to explain. Kudos to those people who can explain as well. But I'm having a hard time explaining because when I was designing this, it was really like a touch and go. I was eyeballing things, playing it back, looking at what I don't like. If the opacity is too high, I went back in. So it was like a kind of back and forth. So here I went into my settings and I reduced the duration to 8 seconds, as I said before. And I'm playing it back to see how it looks. And as the coming soon is decreasing, I want the opacity to be lesser for the Jesus Shoes text in the background. So I reduced the opacity there. And remember previously when we had set the opacity to 15, now I'm going to carry it back down to like about 1 to 2%. So when that coming soon is disappearing, the text in the back would also be, disappearing as well. So this is the end product. Let me know what you think. It's fun, it's quirky, and you can really do a lot with this, right? So be creative and don't forget to have fun.